Ladies and gentlemen, Six Fig Stock Trader here on YouTube. Folks, we're talking CKB on the 12-hour chart at a super high level. So before we get started, if you aren't already, follow me on Twitter at Real6Fig. And this is a great outlet for you to see updates on charts that I've made, and when I just don't have the time to make a video, I will do a screenshot and put an update out on Twitter sometimes. So with that said, let's get back to CKB and look at it on a super high level. Where are we at in the retracement side of things? Price action looks like it has just bounced off the 786. By the way this looks, it looks like a symmetrical triangle with a bearish candle forming, so it wouldn't surprise me to see price action come back down to this 11-cent level. Let's look at this at a super high level as far as a Fibonacci channel is concerned. We can note that CKB has really been following this trend line quite nicely. So with that said, we have solid support in July of 21, back in December of 20, and of course, November of 20, when the trend line started. So I'm only hoping that we get a bounce off this trend line here. And this is all going to depend on Bitcoin, of course. So we will see what Bitcoin is doing in a few minutes, and you need to stick around to watch that video. So here is my bearish prediction on CKB first, because it is important to give two different sides to each story. We might see some sort of corrective wave, strip this thing back down, who knows? But I will say that I am more bullish as long as Bitcoin acts right on CKB. And we can see a clear neckline here. And we can argue the fact that, okay, we might be in the midst of seeing a nice head and shoulders pattern forming. And now you're probably wondering, okay, if this pattern plays out, what price are we going to see? Well, let's do a little fib here. I would say that I would feel comfortable with saying that we could see at least a 2.5 cent to 0.027-ish price tag. And if this inverse head and shoulders plays out, what we might expect here is, bear with me 1 second, folks, a good old Fibonacci sliver. And if we could see price kind of come back up into, bear with me 1 second, TradingView, what are you doing? Oh my goodness, folks. If we could see price action come and bounce off this 2.027-ish level and kind of fill out this ascending triangle, I do think at that point it would be super easy to retest all-time highs. Now, that's just kind of a guess as to what could happen if we do see this inverse head and shoulders, but there is a bigger picture to this and a whole nother side of a story to my other bullish kind of thoughts. So this little price spike here was due to CKB being added to a bunch of exchanges. So we have that knowledge, and this might look tricky to someone who didn't know that. So we're going to go ahead and park our trend line right on these triple tops, and we will likely see, as an alternative to the inverse head and shoulders, something like this. An ascending triangle building possibly into the beginning of next year. And I hate to say that, I want to see the price go up as fast as everybody else does. But when we are talking about stability, stuff like that, I would rather see this long-term ascending triangle play out for more of a rip to the upside. I do think that this is going to be a more powerful avenue to higher prices than an inverse head and shoulders, because it is a lot harder to go from this point up to this point as is from this point to this point. So you can kind of see my argument on that. And I think the ascending triangle would put us into a better chance of further price discovery mode. Let's look at CKB on the daily. We can see it's not super oversold, but it's 36. Stochastics are in the tank right where we want them. So is RSI, right where we want them for some sort of a reversal. I would say within the next week, let's look at this on like a 15-minute chart. It's kind of hard to look at this. It wouldn't surprise me to see price just kind of dump down to the penny level before we reverse here. And this is all pending Bitcoin. So let's look at Bitcoin really quick. And so back on Friday, on September 24th, I made this bold prediction. So we were right here that we would have a region of sell-off here. And possibly this would lead to price action going down to about 39,600. So let's take a peek at Bitcoin right now. And bear with me 1 second. And you can kind of see this trend line here is when I made that prediction. So price action kind of went up, tested this area, came back into this area that I was speculating would be a sell-off region. And it certainly has been. So I was kind of saying like the 43.5 level would be a tough level for price action to really break through. This is the 786 up here, and that 43.5 level was kind of in between the 786 and the 61.8, which was about 43,000. So with that said, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Bitcoin here, but as of right now, my prediction is playing out perfectly and within the rules and law of Gartley. So it's going to be interesting to see. I do think that Bitcoin is going to see a dip down to this $39,000 level because everything's panning out so far, and I've just been kind of generally bearish on Bitcoin, especially on the daily chart. Since we moved into this cloud, it's very hard to get up and out of it. So with that said, we'd really need to break a cool $46,000 to $49,000 Bitcoin just to get out of this cloud, and we'd have to maintain that close above it. In the grand scheme of things, I do think that we'll see a $20,000, $19,000 Bitcoin here, probably sooner than later. And I am saying that because if we look at the weekly, historically, we have gotten one bounce with price action off the 50 moving average before sliding into the bear market. This was 2014. Here's 2017, 2018, price action, one bounce and a slip into the bear market. Here's 2020, came down, one bounce off the 50 and slipped into that coronavirus market. And we can see on the weekly chart that we are bouncing and sliding into the bear market. So this kind of does line up with my prediction. If we go and skewer this 200 moving average, you can kind of see that there might be possibly something this spring this of 22 where we see Bitcoin maybe reach these levels. I'm not saying it's going to do it right away, but the way things are looking, I have no reason to believe otherwise. With that said, folks, I hope you guys enjoyed today's TA. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Real6Fig, and also want to give a huge shout out to all the Patreons of the channel. Thank you so much for your support. If you're interested in supporting the channel, it's $3 a month. You can get your name, YouTube channel name, business name, whatever name you want on this banner. More to come later, folks.